Welcome to the Whisper News channel. Ukraine has officially started the second main offensive. A record number of Russian ammunition depots were destroyed and a great victory was achieved along the Dnipro River. The main point of the second offensive is the southern front and Kherson. After the Russian defense line was broken, the number of casualties was shocking. The first breakthrough moment. Here are the most important news of today. Ukrainian forces unexpectedly mobilized in the Kherson region at the first light of the morning. As the fighting intensified in the Orikhiv direction, everyone expected an offensive in the direction of Melitopol-Berdyansk. However, the offensive took place in and around the islands along the Dnipro River. In the process, Ukrainian forces captured the village of Kazachi Lahari and reached the large mainland on the eastern bank. During this process, Ukrainian forces were observed to be entrenched in the area, but this entrenchment may be temporary. Ukrainian forces managed to land 7 boats, each carrying about 6 to 7 people, in the area of Kazachi Lahari settlement on the eastern side of Dnipro. The Ukrainian troops mobilized, broke through the Russian defensive lines and advanced some 800 meters. While the advances were limited to 15 meters during this period of the war, I can say that being able to advance 800 meters with a single operation is a great success for this period of the war. The main reason for the success of Ukraine's operation is the wrong decisions made by Russian commanders. Russian commanders in Kherson did not expect Ukraine to make a landing and cross the defense line. Russian commanders in the region took this operation too lightly and paid a heavy price. As the Ukrainian troops landed, attacks took place one after the other and 23 Russian soldiers were neutralized. In addition, it was announced that 25 Russian soldiers were captured. In addition, Russian commanders underestimated the Ukrainian attack so much that some of the Russian troops in Kherson were shifted to Zaporizhia as of yesterday evening. Until now, I would say that, apart from the islands in front of Oleshki, there was no visual confirmation of a stable Ukrainian presence on the eastern bank of Dnipro in Kherson Oblast. In fact, the Ukrainian army was unable to break through the Russian defense line despite several attempts to attack. Russian commanders were therefore confident that they could stop the Ukrainian offensive and downplayed the operation that had begun. At the same time, photos of Russian soldiers allegedly captured during the Ukrainian raid were published on the internet. On the other hand, the second major offensive took place, as expected, on the Tavria front. The 40th Separate Artillery Brigade and the 21st Separate Mechanized Brigade of the Ukrainian forces targeted Russian ammunition depots and Russian command centers with cluster munitions delivered to Ukraine. As a result of the attacks, 8 Russian ammunition depots, 1 Russian command center and 61 Russian soldiers were neutralized. In this process, the number of Russian casualties on the southern front within 24 hours reached 244. General Alexander Tarnovsky, commander of the Tavria Operational and Strategic Troop Group, said that the Ukrainian defense forces are working and advancing. The progress continues. Ukrainian artillery units have started to create a corridor in the direction of Tavria. In my previous videos, I said that the long-term goal of the Ukrainian forces is to divide the southern line into 3 parts. At the moment, the first breakthrough has begun in the direction of Tavria, while the attacks in Dnipro indicate that the second corridor may form in the Kherson region. The Ukrainian defense forces are now actively advancing in 3 regions: Tavria, Berdyansk and Bakhmut. But the intensity of the fighting in these areas has increased so much that it is very difficult to advance. I can say that the pace of advance has slowed down considerably. While looking for weak points of the defense lines, Ukrainian forces are attacking from many points. In this way, Ukrainian forces have achieved partial success and gained more ground around Urozhain and Pryutny in Donetsk Oblast, bordering Zaporizhia Oblast. Ukrainian forces made advances around Robotyne in the direction of Verbov. This is the second area on the southern front where Ukrainian forces made the most significant advances during their operations, reaching the main Russian defense lines. Ukrainian troops also made new advances south of Bakhmut, and Ukrainian troops were observed to be entrenched in the advanced areas. New defensive lines were established while the deployments were being made. In the process, Ukraine has advanced by 1 kilometer near Eurojane and several hundred meters near Robotine, confirming the claim. At the same time, Russian troops are maintaining pressure in Ukraine's Luhansk Oblast with little or no success. Ukrainian General Oleksandr Syrskyi visited the Kupiansk direction yesterday and met with commanders. He also said that intense fighting continues on this part of the front line, with positions changing hands sometimes several times a day. On the other hand, an interview published by Ukrainian soldiers caught my attention. The cluster munitions sent by the United States are making a difference on the front line, while the Russians are adapting to the attacks. American cluster munitions are giving Ukrainian troops new opportunities in their operations to retake Russian-held territory after weeks of stalled progress. Ukrainian soldiers said that U.S. cluster munitions, which can drop dozens of small bombs or grenades over a large area, have paved the way for troop advances by destroying hard-to-reach Russian infantry and vehicles. But the Russians dig deep and learn quickly, said Capt. Anatoly Karchenko, commander of a reconnaissance company. Karchenko said Russian commanders had adapted to the cluster bombs by spreading their troops thinner to avoid heavy casualties. Some Russian trenches were built 7 feet deep to provide effective protection from artillery. The counter-offensive in eastern and southern Ukraine relied on Russia's heavily mined external defenses and superior air power, blunting the effectiveness of the armor provided by the West. The counter-offensive is complex. Perhaps it is developing more slowly than some would like. A battle near the village of Robotine, southeast of the city of Zaporizhia, is an example of American cluster munitions at work. In late July, a pinned-down Ukrainian platoon radioed its commander for permission to withdraw. Instead, the Ukrainian commander told his soldiers to take cover, and cluster shells were fired at the Russian position. One soldier said he heard the sound of rain and then chaos on Russian radio channels. Russian soldiers were shouting, "We have many wounded. We need to evacuate. We are retreating," he said. On the other hand, in the last-minute statements from the Strategic Communications Center of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, the target hit by the Ukrainian army was evaluated. At around 22:00 local time, the Ukrainian armed forces struck a Russian command center in the temporarily occupied Novokhovka, the statement said. It is stated that Ukrainian forces have liberated more than 40,000 square kilometers of the country's territory since Russia started the war. This area is larger than the territory of Moldova or about 15 cities such as Moscow, the statement said. Ukrainian Deputy Defense Minister Anna Malyar also stated on her social media account that Kupiansk in the east is the main direction of Russian attacks. Here the enemy has formed attack groups and is trying to advance but cannot succeed. Describing the operational situation as difficult but controllable, Malyar stated that the Ukrainian defense forces continue to repel the attacks of the Russian army. Conclusion. Malyar claimed that Russian forces have been conducting unsuccessful attacks near Sinkivka in the Kharkiv region for several days and said, "The enemy's goal in the Kupiansk direction is to break through the defense of our troops and advance directly to Kupiansk." On the Bakhmut direction, Malyar noted that the Ukrainian army continues to conduct offensive operations on the southern flank of the city of Bakhmut, adding that Ukrainian troops have settled in the captured positions. Malyar claimed that in the Bakhmut direction, Russian troops are trying to regain the positions they lost on the outskirts of Klitschivka and in Zaitsevo, pointing out that the Ukrainian army continues offensive operations in the south in the Melitopol and Berdyansk directions. Malyar said, "Our soldiers have achieved partial success in the Eurojane, Pryutny and Verbov directions. They are currently settling in the captured positions." Malyar argued that Russian troops organized unsuccessful offensive actions in Novokalinov, Severn, Novomykhailivka and Staromyorsky, claiming that Ukrainian troops left the Russians no chance to advance and regain their lost positions. The war on the territory of Ukraine is likely to continue for a long time. For the stability of the region and to prevent more people from being affected, we hope that the conflicts will be resolved at the table. This is the end of another video. We will continue to convey the events in the following hours to you quickly and accurately. We continue to convey the events to you objectively. You can like the videos to support us. You can also subscribe to the channel to make it easier to follow new videos. I wish you all a happy day and see you soon.